So for chapter 5, in chapter 4, we talked a little bit about networking. Chapter 5 is completely dedicated to networking. You may find this statistic astounding. Here it says that 70% of job seekers find success through connections. 70%. What does that mean? That means that 30% of jobs that you see advertised most times are what's left over. That also means that most recruiters, right? Even though most recruiters will say that they 87% use LinkedIn to fill the jobs that they have not filled via networking, right? Most of them will use a platform like LinkedIn. So either a recruiter or a company, they're filling the position via word of mouth and or a platform like LinkedIn. Can you also go to a company's website? Yeah, I actually, encourage people to do that because sometimes they'll post on their website first, but then you just have to know what companies to go to, right? You can do, a Google search on, companies to apply to in this field. That definitely is an option. And companies do like it when you do apply via their website, but they also like it when you apply via LinkedIn. Why is that? Because they get to see a platform of you, your skills, whatever else that you are connected to. Maybe you have some other trainings that you've done on your LinkedIn. They get to see your whole portfolio, right? So they actually like it when they get to cross-reference your resume with a platform, like a portfolio style platform like LinkedIn. So it should be eye-opening just how important it is to both network and to get yourself promoted on these sites. We know that one of the reasons why we do our resume in certain ways and we pick up on keywords is because companies are going to use that ATS tracking system, right? And here it says over 75% of companies use it to find candidates. 75% use ATS. What else is that saying? That's saying how critical it is for you to, one, read job descriptions very carefully, two, make sure that your resume coincides with what the job description is asking. And that's just to get your resume reviewed. That doesn't even mean you're necessarily going to get accepted, right? Just so your resume doesn't hit the not qualified pile, right? Where a human hasn't even seen it. Just to even get your resume in the pile of resumes to be looked at, you need to make sure it has those keywords because yes, a computer system is reviewing your resume initially. So how do we network, right? Back when I started out, everybody did happy hour. Is that still a thing? I don't know. I'm old now. Do people still do happy hour? I don't even know. Oh, they still do. That's good to know. I thought it was like obsolete. But, when I was in my 20s and, starting my career, can, can you guys hear me? I just got a text that people can, well, clearly you can hear me because you guys are responding to me. Let me just tell this person that everyone can hear me. And that, okay. Let me just tell her to log back in. All right. So, it was a big deal back in my day. Like your boss even encouraged you to do that. You got your business cards, and after work, you went to some happy hour, and they would host these big happy hour events in Orlando, and we would go, and you would network. That's what you would do, and that's how you met people. We didn't have social platforms. They were very early on. And I don't know if we had it when I first started. We had MySpace. Anybody remember MySpace? Give me a not that you've read it in a book, you young folks. I want to talk about old folks like me that actually use MySpace. um, I know some of you are like, MySpace, what is that? And they had a platform that was even earlier than MySpace. I recently heard somewhere. Does anyone remember what it was? I can't remember what it was, but somebody said it was one even before MySpace. But, we had to get out and meet people. That's how word of mouth was a big deal. What did we do? We got a lot of Eventbrites. Give me a thumbs up if you remember Eventbrite. Like you would like having email was a cool thing because you would get these events through Eventbrite. Like that's how this is so antiquated for these younger folks. I know they're like, what? You had to rely on email? Yes, you had to rely on email. You got Eventbrites you got invited to these different events, and you would go out. Of course, you can network through recruiters. That was a big thing. Some of you may see now days if you drive around town, these different little offices in like shopping centers. Some of us saw like those military recruiting sites, but there would be other little business recruiting sites, or businesses would have little what we call them storefronts, where you would go and get information about jobs as well. That's how we used to do it. We used to have to do it the hard way. Get on a city bus and with your resume and portfolio, and go around, right? Okay, just have Amanda saying she still can't hear. Um, 1 second. Okay. So that's how we used to do it, guys. Professional associations are a big deal too. Meeting up at user groups, conferences, job fairs, really big. People just don't go to job fairs to get a job, but they also go um, to 1 second. To network, right? So it's not just about, you know, going to the job. Sometimes people just go just to meet. Like, and when you go there, you can meet a lot of recruiters, right? You can talk to them. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm sorry, she's texting me. 1 second. What else? Volunteering is also a big one too, right? Um, has anybody ever volunteered before? Anybody volunteered? That's how I got one of my big jobs by volunteering. It wasn't my objective to get the job, but I got a job from volunteering. I volunteered, and the person liked the work I was doing, and he offered me a job. So it does work. I am a testament to it. I went on to have a really big position at that company too, and it was just from volunteering. There's a lot of LinkedIn groups too, a lot of LinkedIn groups that you can use when you are trying to do networking. So LinkedIn is so big, guys. I encourage you to watch like a YouTube on all the different functionalities of LinkedIn, and so is Facebook. Now, I admit I stopped using Facebook, years ago. Anybody still uses Facebook? I can't even tell you the functionality of Facebook now because, I hate to say this, but back when I was using it, it was very simple. Now I hear it's this huge thing, right? So, I do think it is, obviously a good platform, but it's not something that I use. But I definitely encourage you to use it. A lot of companies do use it, and a lot of them are engaging on it as well, right? So that's something else you can consider, right? So when it comes to networking, then what does that mean? I'm talking about all these different ways that you can network in this different platform. And, like I said before, it's not as complicated as one might think. It's simply just talking to people. That's it. Just talking to people, even if it's nothing more than you talking to the people in this class, right? Like I said before, if all of you guys, and some of you may know each other, some of you may not, were to connect through LinkedIn, right? Let's say you connected through LinkedIn, and Alan posted something on LinkedIn saying his company had a job, and you're looking for a job. Now, you don't know Alan that well, but you send Alan your resume. Alan, let me ask you, what are the chances if your company was looking for somebody and somebody here sent you their resume and say, hey, Alan, you may not remember me. We were at Southern Tech together in Miss Taylor's class. Do you mind passing on my resume? Would you do it? Not to put you on the spot, Alan, but 9 times out of 10, he would do it. Why is that? Does Alan need to know your birth date and your birth certificate and all that kind of stuff? No. All he needs to do is have some type of familiarity with you. And that's all networking is about. That is the cool thing about professional networks, guys. You don't have to be best friends. You just have to be in the business. I love professional networking more than I love personal networking, because personal friendship, I can't maintain those well because I'm not a good reacher out, or I'm more of a call me when you need me type person, right? So, but with professional networks, you can do that. Now, yes, you do need to maintain some type of connection, but it doesn't have to be like you do on a personal level, right? I have connections back from 20 years ago, and a lot of us still connect via LinkedIn. A lot of us still connect. Amanda, let me know if you hear us now. And that is why we wanted you guys to do informational interviewing, right? Because with informational interviewing, Amanda, can you hear us now? It's a form of networking. It's a form of networking because what it allows you to do is, reach out to people, talk to people about what's going on in your industry. And people love to tell you about what's going on in their industry. They love to tell you about what they're doing. Anybody that has an uncle or aunt or a mom or sister's friend, y'all know those people when you were teenagers love to give you a talk and, give you advice. We all have those people, right? Or maybe some older supervisor that loves to tell you about the time he had or she had this and that and give you advice. People love it. So networking is good because you're not asking for anything. You're just asking for information. And oftentimes that does lead to something. So the only thing that we tell you is that when you do your professional networking, don't be self-centered. What does that mean? Don't reach out to people only when you need something. You want to be a little bit engaging. So if I'm connected to you on LinkedIn or you're connected to these people here, and one posts something like, oh, I just got a new promotion. Give one a thumbs up. Say, good job, one. Stay just a little bit connected. Or if Jail's company, said that they're hosting this online networking event, or learn how, the electrical or HVAC companies are moving in a new direction, go to it. What is it going to kill you? Let Gerald know that you're there. That's how you do a little bit of reciprocation. So if you need something from any of these people, guess what? They remember that you did them a solid, so they do you a solid. You guys may see this on TV a lot. You may see it in politics a lot. You hear of people going to the golf course to make deals. All they're doing, even though they're doing it on a whole other level, is connecting to people. I do you a solid, you do me a solid. And that's what it is. As long as nobody's asking you to do something crazy, like we've seen, on TV and in television shows, right? most times proper networking is just staying connected to people. And now is the time to do it. Let me tell you something, guys. How many companies have been started in college? How many companies have met their partners or potential, business partners in college? That happens, right? And the last thing to know is that it does evolve over time, right? It does evolve over time. So that means that, even with someone like myself, yes, I have colleagues from 20 years ago. I have colleagues that I pick up over time. So my network is huge, but it's because I picked up these people over 25 years of working, different people in my network. Like we talked about, face-to-face networking obviously is, a thing, right? It is, probably the most effective way, just like doing an interview, face-to-face is the most effective way. But it's also a great way to network because people, was that you, Amanda?
Yes, I got it to work. I'm sorry. I'm turning
Oh,
my
girl,
now.
we were all rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. I was like, hold on, guys, I gotta save Amanda. All right.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So, um, you know, it allows you to, connect with people. But, like I said, make sure that you have what you need when you do meet face to face. Now, we used to have business cards back in my day. Let me tell you, when you are doing professional networking, one thing to not make assumptions. Don't assume people want to put your number in their phone. Now, this is not the nightclub. So when you go to professional networks, it's best to have a business card because people are not gonna be like, hey, give me your phone, let me get your number. Like that's not proper etiquette in business, right? Have you a business card if you are going to network? Maybe they may have a business phone, or maybe they want to, only use their business, their landline or something like that, So you just never know, right? So we always say just have a business card. Don't be like, oh, I don't have a number. Let me write it on the back of a piece of paper. No, you want to have a business card, right? So just do that. Also, know what you want to talk about when you're meeting people face to face. That's why if you're going to a conference, you need to know who's going to be at the conference. Who do I want to talk to at this conference? Like, make it very deliberate. Like, just don't show up somewhere and you don't even know what you want to talk about, who you want to talk to, and why you want to talk to them, right? Yeah, you may meet some people and you don't know who's going to be there. That's different. But the more research that you do, and obviously you should be going for a very specific reason. Let's say it's a job fair, and maybe you don't even know if you get the job, but you want to go and see who's out there and who's looking. Make sure you do your research on what companies are going to be there and what type of positions they're looking for. And if you have a very specific questions about that position, it can start a conversation because you never know, you could get a job. I got my first teaching job doing that. I went to a conference. I was supporting my company, but I was always on the prowl because I was young. I was in my 20s. And a university, my first university I ever worked for, they were recruiting for instructors. And, I was talking to her about something else and she approached me. She said, hey, have you ever thought about teaching? And I was like, no. And that business card that she gave me led to a 20 years career in teaching. And that just because I went to a conference. So what I'm telling you is real, right? So don't discount going to places like that and doing face-to-face, right? Having those business cards. Like I said, yes, of course, there's proper etiquette when it comes to networking, but it's just like any other etiquette, having good manners, being mindful of others, letting people know what you need, all that is, being specific is kind of like that elevator pitch that we talked about. Like, in business, time is money, right? So that mentality is a little different. It's not like a social environment where people are a little bit more slow and trying to get to know the details of who you are. In business, people want you to get to the point, right? It's a little bit more targeted. So just know when you do talk to someone, you know what you want to talk about, right? Obviously, you want to dress appropriately if you are in business, not arriving late. That is not cute in business. Like, it's not good to be fashionably late when you're in business. Like, people do judge, unless you just had another business meeting or whatever, especially if it's a big conference and here you are, oh, excuse me, scoot, you run into the table trying to find somewhere to sit. Like, people expect you to be on time. Like, everything is a presentation of you as a business person. So just be mindful of that, but you'll get into these things as you get further on in your career. Cell phone use. Let me tell you something. Who all knows the proper way to deal with your cell phone when you're in a meeting? Does anyone even know what I'm talking about? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Amanda, can you tell us? There's no right or wrong. You could have something, a different example from me, but what do you suggest when you have a cell phone in a meeting?
Well, you definitely want to turn off your notifications. And then it's also probably best to like not be on it.
Mm-hmm. I saw someone else. Was that you, Alan? Do you have something you want to add? Or was it Zanaya? Or you're just giving her a thumbs up? Well, so Amanda's right. There's a couple of things. Number one, if you are going to have your, first of all, they say don't even have it out. But if you are going to have it out, it should always be what? Face down. Face down. Secondly, definitely on silent mode, right? Turn off your notifications. Some people have emergencies. Maybe you're expecting an emergency phone call. Maybe, we have kids, I get it. So you just feel safer with your cell phone out. Always have your cell phone face down. Why is that? Because nowadays, like Amanda was saying, you get notifications, you get all kinds of stuff, and it's not cute to be looking at your cell phone, right? People, it's actually rude to do that. Like I always feel bad if I do that, even if I'm in a social environment, because, I'm always, checking, especially if, I'm expecting something about my kid, I'm always checking my cell phone. But that is something that you may not know. And let me tell you this phrase, you don't know what you don't know, but others do. Now that's a Maya Angelou. Now Maya Angelou didn't say that, but that's a very profound phrase that I'm putting you onto. What does that mean? That means that if you don't know something, you don't know it, but the person that does know it, no, you don't know it. And why is that important? People will judge you for that. People will judge you for that. Give me a thumbs up if you know what I'm talking about. Right? We judge people now, right? We judge people. We see people on television doing crazy stuff on social media. It embarrasses us. It makes us, turn away. And they don't know, right? They don't know what they don't know, right? And people, you get judged. You get judged. And it's not even always a negative thing, the judgment, right? It's like, oh, that person doesn't know any better. Oh, that person doesn't have proper etiquette. Oh, that person is unaware of themselves, right? And people will judge you. And in business, that's not a good thing, right? So you need to know etiquette, because some people say, oh, I didn't want to deal with this person. And you can lose out on opportunity, oh, just because you don't have proper etiquette. There's books you can read on it, right? And sometimes etiquette gets you in the door. Listen, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but this notion of socioeconomic status is a real thing. And what I mean by that is, how you engage in a social setting, the etiquettes of that matter, because that group of people may say, oh, well, if you don't understand the social norms, right, then they may discount you, because sometimes people just don't want to engage. I mean, think about it. Let's say that you were, let's see, anything, a teacher. But let's say your style of teaching was a little bit, let's say and maybe you guys probably have had an educator like this. Maybe they're a little bit too, how should I say, uh too real, or maybe they use their vernacular is a little too not academic. Y'all get my point, right? Or maybe a lot of their examples may be a little bit too inappropriate, right? I've seen, educators lose jobs behind that, because they don't know how to to shift that dynamic, right? You know, like how you talk shop is not how you teach. You understand my point? Like, and some people don't know how to make that shift, right? So it's so important that you understand how to make those shifts. You know, I even saw it a lot in the military. You know, when people didn't know how to make that shift in being in the military. And if you ever been in the military, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, and then sometimes people didn't know how to shift back into civilian world. That can also be a double-edged sword, right? Because I remember when I first left the military, I went to go work at a not my first left the military, but a couple years after, I went to go work at a nonprofit, and I got my first review back, right? And it was a peer review, and I think we'll talk about this in a couple days or so. Um, and the peer review, like I thought I was killing it. I thought I was killing it, guys, because anybody ever dealt with a veteran before, or maybe you're a veteran. Um, I was, I was an accounting specialist. I did everything, by the book. I was good. In my first peer review, I'll never forget, I got back some negative reviews. And the biggest one was that I was too curt. Anybody know what that means? Like short and to the point. I'll never forget it. It traumatized me, and it's been 30 years ago. And no, not exact, almost, no, not exact, almost 30. And I was like, what is this? What do you mean short and to the point? I had to look it up, right? Because in the military, that's how you're supposed to be. You don't do a lot of gibberish and chitter chatter, right? And the people had a hard time with me because I was too militant. Can you imagine? Can you imagine me being too militant? And then I went to another company, and it was that company I had volunteered for. And then years later, I actually became like a high ranking person there. And I got another negative review, and it was from like the receptionist and some other people that were, a little bit junior. And they were like, I wasn't friendly enough. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I said hello in the morning, and I said good evening. Like, what else do you want? And I remember my boss saying to me, well, Cynthia, she was upset, talking about the receptionist because her grandson was on a soccer team or something, and she had a big old trophy sitting on her desk. And I guess I didn't ask about it, and I didn't engage on a personal level. And I was like, but to me, that's like privacy issues. Like, why would I engage you on a personal level? Long story short, I had to learn the ropes, right? So, it hurt me. I had to learn how to be personable without being personal. Does that make sense? Like, so you have to learn these etiquettes. I know I had to learn it. Even some other stuff, chapter 5 talks about, how do you enter a room and how giving people eye contact. Who knows that in America, eye contact is a big thing? Or maybe you didn't even know that was an American thing. Who knew that eye contact in America is an American thing? Some of the cultures is considered rude to look people in the eye. Anybody live from a different culture where that's true? Rude and considered inappropriate to look people in the eye. Mm-hmm. When I was in Africa, I was teaching in Ghana, and I was dating this guy, and he would never look me in the eye. And when we were talking, he wouldn't look people in the eye. And I was like, dude, like, if you don't look people in the eye, I didn't call him dude like that, but I was like, that's considered deceptive. In America, like, we want you to look us in our eye. Is that not the case? In other cultures, it's considered disrespectful, especially if you're looking someone in the eye that is older than you, or considered on a higher level than you. And that's something. So knowing the proper etiquette of where you're at is a big thing. It's a big thing, right? So that's something that you learn. Even with online networking, it's important to know how to engage. We can all say we know that some online stuff is atrocious. Is that not the case? Because so many of these people, a lot of people don't have proper etiquette. Some people probably never held a job in their lives. They feel like they don't have to use proper etiquette because they don't know the person that they're speaking with. And I think social media has really drug out the worst in us because we show so much disregard for each other online. Now, here's what I suspect is going to happen. Just like we see what's happening with the pendulum shifting back to the left, meaning we're getting a little bit more conservative in our environments. I know some people, from a political standpoint, you may be like, oh my goodness, what is happening? Well, what I see happening, and I'm looking at it purely from a business landscape, looking at it from a economic landscape, is when the pendulum shifts, has this drastic shift. I read a book called The J Curve. It's because they're trying to do some type of correction, like something has happened. So I suspect that this whole social media dynamic is going to have a shift. And I think it's going to revert back to not having so much access to one another on a social level. I think it's gonna correct itself. What do I mean by that? Back in the day, when we had social platforms, it was one-sided. We didn't have chat boxes where you could talk to each other. Anybody remember times we didn't have that? You can go online, you can look at stuff, but there was no way to engage, right? So whatever comment you had, unfortunately, you had to tell the person sitting next to you on your couch. You couldn't do that. I suspect that some platforms are going to start to be like paid only platforms. You're going to need certain criteria to even use the platforms. It's not just going to be open season. And I think it's going to be because of all this stuff that's happening. I suspect that's what's going to happen. Now, good, bad, or indifferent, because sometimes garbage in, garbage out. And I think that is what's going to end up happening. Because right now it's a free for all, right? So, having this online etiquette, I think that's what happens, like they say, sometimes when you give somebody something for free, they don't appreciate it, right? So sometimes you have to put parameters on that. And, part of that, having good etiquette, we don't know how good we have something until it's gone. And when we lose that freedom of just being able to connect anybody we want to, any kind of company we want to, because we've just been reckless in our engagement, I think we're going to lose some of that. I really do see it happening. I don't know. Anybody have any comments on that? What do y'all think? Do y'all think it's going to get a little bit more restrictive, or? Because nowadays you got people just saying all kinds of weird stuff, right? All right. Now, one thing about online, really quickly, just to wrap this up, is, similar to what I'm saying, along the lines of what I'm saying, like you have to use proper etiquette when it comes to how you engage with somebody. Should you flood their emails? Should you flood their DMs? Hey, I reached out to you last week. I haven't heard from you. Hey, it's been 2 days. What's up? Hey, I just want that's weird, right? You don't do that. I had someone do me like that at a company I was applying. I was over a department. I was like a director, and I was looking for an instructor, and the person had sent me her resume via LinkedIn, which is great, but obviously I got a lot of resumes. Yes, I did review her resume, but I didn't feel like she was a good fit, right? No big deal, right? That happens all the time. Well, Miss Thing thought she was a good fit, and she sent me these DMs like, did you get my resume? And I'm like, yes, ma'am, I got your resume. Did you review it? Yes, I reviewed it. I don't understand why you would not call me. I know I'm overqualified for the position. And I was like, oh my God, clutch my pearls, And funny enough, when I read her resume, one of the things that kind of turned me off is that in her cover letter, it was almost like, I know I'm qualified for this job. I expect you to call me. Like I felt that energy just by reading her resume in her cover letter, right? So I wasn't really interested in her anyway. And plus she was too far from the job, and I had a better candidate. Like she had some experience, but she wasn't the top qualified person. And so she sent me that. I was like, taken aback, so I had to get a little, matter of fact with her and explain to her that you have great qualifications, but you weren't the top qualified person. And I think that sometimes that happens, we think I am perfect for this job. Well, guess what? There's somebody else in the door next to you also thinks they're perfect for the job, and they could be. So there's two perfect people for the job. You're not the only perfect person for the job, right? I know we have to check our ego, myself included, thinking that we should be the best person for the job, right? We know that. All right. So what do we guys want you to what do we want you guys to do? We want you to set up a LinkedIn account, right? It's so important for you to have a LinkedIn account. How many people have a LinkedIn account by around show of hands? If you already have one, this assignment's gonna be really good for you because really easy. You're just gonna copy and paste your URL in the assignment. You're done. For those of you that don't have a LinkedIn account, the objective is for you. One, you have a question, you're just letting me know you had an account. For you to set it up. You can delete it right after. You don't even have to put real information in it if you don't want to. Now, of course, I'm going to say you need to keep a LinkedIn account, but if you're not ready for one, like don't freak out about it. It's totally fine. I don't care if you use, fake whatever. It's just our job to make sure you know how to set up a LinkedIn account. It's very similar to, your resume in the sense that you're going to have a profile, you're going to have an about me section, experience. That about me section is where your summary from your resume comes from. The headline is where that personal statement we wanted you guys to do. That's where you're going to plop those two. Your experience, obviously, and your education comes from your resume. This is why we wanted you to do your resume first, because you literally are just copying and pasting it into your LinkedIn account. Does that make sense? See the method to our madness? So once you do that LinkedIn account, you are going to then send us there's in the URL of your account. In other words, once you set it up and you look at the search bar, you can just copy and paste that, or you can, paste your front page, however you want to do it, right? So to wrap this up, obviously I talked about this yesterday. Twitter, I'm not a big person on Twitter anymore. It's mainly because I'm disappointed in it, not because, I have any feeling towards Elon. I actually, like most tech people, loved the work Elon did prior to him going into politics. So I didn't have an issue with that. But I just don't think it is a reputable system, a platform now. That's just my personal opinion. So, but whatever, platforms like Twitter, used to be really great for you to do networking. Same thing with Instagram. I think Instagram is still a good place to go, just make sure you put the parameters on it so you don't have to deal with any of that noise stuff. All right. All right. I have a question for you. With the reputation, if I were to offer you a job, this is your participation question. Would my reputation as a company influence whether you would want to work there? In other words, how I run my business, the ethics of my business, would you have a problem with it? There's no right or wrong answer. Just want to know yes or no and why. My personal story, I was up to go work for the Department of Commerce. I'm actually a Department of Commerce contractor. And I was supposed to get a job working at the PTO office, working US PTO office, working as a patent examiner. Clearly, the current administration, put a kibosh on that. And then, they opened it back up, but actually they opened it back up to say you could only live in Virginia if you want the job. But even if they would have not done that, I would have not applied for the job. Because I am not in alignment with how things are going currently. I'm not in alignment with it. Not the they're cutting back and stuff like that. Hey, who am I to tell somebody they can't cut back? If I had a business or if I'm running something, I'm in charge. If you want to cut back, do your thing. That's you. What I have a problem with is the way it's done, right? Like, I think that if you're working, everybody should have some level of dignity when they work at a company, especially if someone's been there for 25, 30 years. There should be some level of transparency and trust, right? If you don't trust your boss, and your boss doesn't trust you, like, how are you going to work together? How does that work, right? So I wouldn't even work for the government right now in its current, position, not because of the president or anything like that, but just because it's so uncertain and so unknown. Like I need to have some level of rest when I go to bed at night. Like, I cannot operate in chaos. I just can't do it. It freezes me up. So They actually sent me a notice saying, "Hey, would you want to apply?" Like, first of all, I'm not moving to Virginia, so say, and secondly, no, I don't. Like, talk to me once y'all get it, y'all selves together. All right. So I just want to know, how do you feel about it? What a company's reputation or their ethics or dictate how you would work there. That's your participation question for today. All right, my friends, thank you so much for your time. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be discussing, your thank you letters and your debrief from your mock interviews. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you for the hand claps. I appreciate it. Talk to you guys tomorrow.